Australia, home to more deadly creatures than anywhere else on Earth. We're experiencing the terrifying jaws of death down under. From killer crocs to highly venomous spiders and tenacious Tassie devils. Ahead, sharks. Survivors relive their horrific experiences. Spiders, nasty critters. Blue-ringed octopus. Kangaroos, you thought they were ever so cute. Plus deadly jellyfish and killer bees. All ahead as we experience Australia's most terrifying creatures. Truly terrifying.
Around the world, there are some 400 species of sharks. Almost half of those, 170 to be exact, are found in Australian waters. And of those, the deadliest are the great white, the tiger shark and the bull shark.
The world's most ferocious sharks are the great whites, the world's largest marine predator.
A large great white could be, in excess of 6 metres long and weigh hundreds of kilos, travelling at vast speeds through the water, and very large serrated teeth as well. So even if it is a case of mistaken identity and it's just a small bite, by that scale, that can cause very serious damage.
Rob Townsend from Sydney's Sea Life Aquarium says the great whites are ferocious predators.
Generally, they're an ambush predator, so you will see those kind of classic air jaws kind of visions of them taking seals and launching full length out of the water. So you can imagine the speed that they must be carrying on at to launch 6 metres of shark clear of the water. We're talking massive amounts of force.
Sailing off the South Australian coast to study great whites in their natural habitat are a group of scientists, biologists and observers. The great whites are in abundance here. Lightning-fast swimmers armed with 3,000 razor-sharp teeth and up to 6 metres long. Among the observers, Rodney Fox. He's experienced the jaws of death when he was spearfishing at the age of 24.
I was swimming in the South Australian Spearfishing Championships in 1963, and I was the state champion. And there were 40 divers and lots of fish had been speared. After 4 hours, I swam offshore and dived down, and I was just about to spear a fish when this huge bang and thump hit me in my chest. I thought I'd been hit by a train, then I realised it was a giant shark. And I remembered gouge its eyes. So I gouged its eyes as I was being hurled through the water, and the shark let me go. I pushed it away, my hand went in its mouth, I dragged it out knowing it was badly cut. I put both arms around its belly, well back from its jaws, so it couldn't bite me anymore. And then I realised I needed air. I went to the surface and took a big breath of air. The shark followed me up and I saw it through the bright red water, which was my blood. It came up and swallowed the fish float I was towing, and it dragged me down underwater again because it was attached to my belt. I tried to find the catch for my belt and I couldn't find it, and I was just about to give up and breathe water, and a miracle happened, the line snapped. I managed to get to the surface and a boat was coming over to see what all the bright red water was. I managed to climb into the boat, well, with a big help, and they raced me off to hospital. It was a miracle I survived. They said another 2 minutes out of hospital and I wouldn't have been here today. I had over 460 stitches in my chest. My ribs were broken, lung was punctured, the main artery from the heart to the stomach was exposed. My arm had 92 stitches. It's all healed reasonably up. But they made one mistake. They stitched my skin to my muscle, so I can do this now where most people can't.
Since that deadly attack, Rodney Fox has dedicated his life to the preservation of the killer that almost killed him.
And that's how these trips came about. I built the first underwater cage, we made the first movies, and now, 40 years later, we've made 120 films and documentaries and worked with marine scientists and shark researchers from all over the world have been out here to have a look at the great white shark.
Great white sharks have a very keen sense of smell. Their olfactory lobes are bigger,
proportionally than in any other species of shark. They'll travel for many miles, I think, to get to the Neptunes. They can probably smell the Neptunes. They're here because of the seals, and at the moment the seal pups are learning how to swim, and the sharks are coming in to prey on those.
Rodney's son Andrew now runs shark watching trips. He's been studying these sharks since he was 14 and has had a few close encounters.
A few times when you're looking through a camera and the wide angle shows the sharks to be further away than they really are, and we've had a few cameramen and myself have to watch. We get little nicks on our fingers from teeth coming too close, but really inside the cage you're very safe. Their teeth really are like razors. They can shave your skin. They can cut through flesh and bone of hardened marine mammals. This shark is one of the few animals out there that can bite a person in half, and that scares us. That creates the fear. There's not many animals that can bite somebody in half and eat them. We got a 3-metre male shark, plain skin, untagged. Just turned up about time after 3 days, but he hasn't got any tags or any marks that I recognise. I try to tag every shark, but just today we're going to try to see if we can get any hours of daylight left to get everybody to have a bit of a look in the cage. Step into the centre of the cage there, Anthony. He's getting a really close look, isn't he? Look at that.
One of the scientific functions of today's operation is to tag the sharks, allowing scientists to monitor their movements.
Each shark that we see has different markings, especially along its counter-shading boundary between the darker and the lighter underneath. And that's distinctive with each shark, like a human fingerprint. There's a shark down on the bottom that's not coming near the back platform, so we're going to have to go down and tag it on the bottom. So if I can get a shot out of the cage, we'll put S77662 in the fishery streamer tag. On the bottom cage dives, you've got to work from open doors or above the cage, and without a lot of protection sometimes to get those shots in, and that can be a little bit dangerous, but you just have to be watching what the shark's doing and have somebody watching out for other sharks at the same time.
This operation has been deemed a success. The tags will allow them to be tracked for some time.
We're finding that sharks are reported along the whole southern coastline of Australia and even up towards the tropics on each coast. And some of the sharks that we've satellite tagged have been tracked all the way up to the Great Barrier Reef or to Northwest Cape. And they go past metropolitan swimming areas and they're always in contact with us, always around us, but they choose to ignore us.
For Rodney Fox, there's been a conversion.
When I look back, I find that maybe I was spared to be able to talk about the sharks and to try and help to get them to be more understood. It's been my aim to try and help and to get this myth that they're just man-eaters and killers away. And I believe we have to learn to live with the sharks.
Another big campaigner for sharks is legendary underwater filmmaker Val Taylor. She's campaigning to save the highly endangered grey nurse shark.
You always see something interesting. Big blue groper, schools of fish. There's always something interesting.
The grey nurse shark certainly looks very dangerous, and when I first saw a grey nurse shark I thought it was a man-eater because its teeth are exposed all the time. We very quickly found out that a grey nurse shark is completely harmless.
The grey nurse shark is my favourite shark in the whole world. It's gentle. There are no recorded unprovoked attacks by a grey nurse shark anywhere in the world.
You can tell whether a shark is potentially dangerous by the shape of its teeth. If they're big triangular teeth like a great white shark, well, they've evolved to prey upon large marine creatures. But the grey nurse shark has got long needle-shaped teeth, and he's evolved to catch fish. They're quite large. You can get them up around 3.5 metres in length, and I just enjoy swimming with the grey nurse.
Unfortunately, due to accidental catching by fishermen or game fishermen, they are disappearing off the coast at an alarming rate. It used to be 20, 30, maybe even more in one place. Now you're lucky if you see 5 or 6. And if we lose them, they'll be gone forever, and we'll lose a beautiful wild animal that lives underwater off the coast that a 10-year-old child can snorkel from the beach in some places and see. And there's nowhere else in the world you can do that. There's only one way that you're going to save the grey nurse population off the east coast of Australia, and that's to have the government proclaim a habitat protection for them.
Val's favourite dive spots are off Seal Rocks on the New South Wales north coast. We filmed Val diving here with late husband Ron Taylor, a true legend in underwater cinematography.
Probably my most interesting experience was shooting the live shark sequences for Jaws. They had a mechanical shark in Jaws, I think as everybody knows, but quite a few of those shots are actually a real live great white shark, and Valerie and I did that in South Australia. That was a little bit scary at times.
Together, Ron and Val Taylor have had many close encounters with sharks.
Back in the 60s, Ron came up with the idea that if chainmail protected a warrior from an arrow or a sword, it would have to protect a person from the razor-sharp edge of a shark's tooth. The mail, it was made for Butcher's Boning Club. We had a suit made, and Ron did the filming and I did the testing. I have no recollection of being afraid when I've been wearing the mesh suit. Not even when I was bitten, I wasn't afraid. You're too busy. You don't have time to be afraid. To be bitten and thrown around in the water by a shark, a wild animal, is very exciting, very exhilarating.
Yeah, I was wearing the mesh suit when a shark actually bit me on the shoulder. What sticks in my mind is the sound of the teeth grating on the steel mesh. But even these razor-sharp teeth cannot cut through that steel mesh. Valerie and I were in the cage filming the great white shark swimming around, and the steel cable that was tethering our cage to the boat went underneath the shark, and he spun around, and it went through his mouth and around his tail, and the shark just went crazy.
He twisted it all around himself, and the people on the boat thought the tension of this cable on the boat might break the boat, so they released the cable, and the shark had us. I had on scuba, but Ron only had a snorkel, and the shark is taking the cage down, and it's a wild ride. We're all over the place.
Every time the cage started to go down, I had to take a big breath and hold my breath, but the shark tired and the cage floated back to the surface and I was able to breathe again. And the thrashing around didn't last all that long, only about 5 or 10 minutes. Then we had to set about rescuing the shark because it was really tangled. It couldn't release itself. And we eventually took it onto this rocky reef and untangled it.
Opened its mouth and pushed water through it, let the waves roll in, and put a tag on it. First great white that was ever tagged. And we took its temperature, and it was warm-blooded.
But the unfortunate thing is that the tag was returned about 6 months later. It had become, the shark had died in a fisherman's net.
On one occasion, Val was bitten.
I think we counted 26 sharks. We had 2 other men in the water to protect us from the sharks, but unfortunately, there were just so many, they were flat out protecting themselves. And I had a fish in my hand, waving it at one shark, and I felt a slight bump on my leg. It was very gentle, and I looked down and my leg was in the shark's mouth. I knew from all the biting in the mesh suit that when sharks bite, they have to go and saw through your flesh. And I grabbed it so it couldn't do that, and punched it in the gills, and it let go, and it turned around and came back.
You were above me, and I looked up, and I saw this shark actually on your leg, so I just swam up as fast as I could to assist you, and so were the other divers.
I looked at the blood coming out of my leg, and I thought, I'm going to bleed to death now, but it slowed down. I actually grabbed the wound with my hand, and my middle finger disappeared through the wetsuit and into my leg, and I thought, oh. So I When I hit the surface, I called out to the camera crew on the boat.
Give her some help out of the water. Valerie's been putting on the leg.
That's all right. I'm not that bad. I'm offering him a fish with the top half and his dad will bite in the bottom half.
Oh, that one's cut right into your wetsuit, Valerie. How bad is it?
I'll take a look. Oh!
What? Oh dear, look at all that blood.
No, Ronnie, it's really bad.
Lay down, get your leg up. Somebody ought to get on the horn. We'll just have a look at it first.
Oh,
you want to know
you're
it
gonna be
caused blood?
You're going to be
Oh
horrified.
yeah, it's a bad one.
I think you should leave the wetsuit on it.
Yeah, that's a bad. Leave the wetsuit on. Leave it on. Bad cut. Yeah, that'll have to be stitched. And we work so often with these sharks, and now it happens. I'm going to check.
Well, that's one of those things, Ron.
Yeah, well, there were so many of them, you couldn't watch them all at the same time.
Nothing much we can do about it, as long as it doesn't bleed too much. I got him off very quickly, you know, because
Keep your leg up. Keep it up.
you know, I felt this hit, you know, like a great bang on my leg, and I immediately turned around and hit the shark. And that's why only one set of teeth went in. You can see where he was. He was about to take the whole piece out.
Yeah.
And they called the Coast Guard, who picked you and me up.
And they took me to hospital, and they had a plastic surgeon waiting. He put in about 300 stitches, over 300, but it was plastic surgery. And he did 3 layers, one in the muscle, one in the fat, and one under the skin. And there's hardly any scar left now. I've been bitten by sharks probably hundreds of times, but most of the time I've had the chainmail suit on. And I have been bitten by other sharks on 3 occasions when I haven't had the mesh suit on.
I think the last time was a bull shark got you on the ankle, didn't it?
Yeah, but that was my fault. I put my foot in its mouth practically.
Well, yes. If you're having high adventure in the ocean, you do have these little unfortunate encounters sometimes, but we understand that. That's part of the excitement of living.
I wouldn't describe myself as brave or stupid or anything like that. It's just part of the job. I guess if you ride a horse, you're occasionally going to fall off. It's part of being a rider of a horse. And if you drive a fast car, you're prone to having an accident. You know, it's just part of the job.
Tiger sharks are another vicious species, according to Rob Townsend.
They have a much broader range. They're through the tropics where more people are in the water, and so we probably see more interactions from tiger sharks. They're a much more generalised predator, where your white sharks have a very limited range of things they'll eat. Tiger sharks are, garbage gutters. They'll eat just about anything, and their dentition shows that too. They have very specific kind of teeth that are really suited to tearing through turtle shells, but also, getting into fish and mammals as well. I think just the fact that they live in the warmer waters generally, they are interacting with people more often. They do like those clear tropical waters though, and so you get those mistaken identity attacks a bit less, because they can actually see that, hang on, this is a surfer, this is not a turtle.
Another legendary underwater filmmaker is Ben Kropp.
This has been a passion with me, which I'll take to my grave. Every day, every dive, you see something new. I've been lucky. I haven't had a serious injury underwater. I've had close shaves, or times I've been very worried, but I haven't had a serious injury. We have a saying, there's old divers, there's bold divers, but there's no old, bold divers. And so the silly things I did when I was younger, I got away with them. I survived, but I think twice about those things now. The whales were probably potentially the worst. To get sharks in, we normally bait them. So in this case, we speared some fish, and they pick up the vibrations of speared fish and rush in. And they did. About 4 rushed in, ate the fish, but then about 6 more appeared, and there was no fish left. And I looked around and thought, well, we can't see the food. We're going to get this guy. And all 6 sharks raced at me at the same time. And believe me, I literally panicked in a way, because I couldn't handle 6 sharks coming at me, and I backpedaled, kicked with my flippers, kicked them in the head, and pushed them with the camera, and they eventually turned. But I was worried because only one had to bite and the rest would have come in on me. But I kept the camera running, being an old filmer, and it seemed to go on and on. I was getting exhausted. But when I looked at the film, it was only 15 seconds, that's all.
For Ben Crop, the most aggressive sharks are the tiger sharks.
Well, I've been filming tiger sharks for about 40 years. They're not difficult to film. The main problem is to get them to the boat, because that takes a lot of time, and usually we have to burley them up, put fish carcasses out and so forth. And I might sit here for 2 hours before the first tiger appears, and then I might wait another hour for that tiger to take his first bite. And once he's got that first bite, he's locked on in his mind, I'm going to eat that. You know, it doesn't seem to realise it's being pulled in until we get the buoy and the shark and the carcasses right in close. Then I have this camera in the water, so I can get the full picture, no risk to me at all. I mean, I have got in with tigers, and I've found that this little thing, this simple pole camera, gets me the same shots without putting my body in there. We've got the tiger shark right at the back of the boat. And sometimes, well, I've had anything up to 10 tigers at the back of the boat at one time. Start pulling it in. They do have a pecking order. The biggest one fed first, the biggest one came back for repeated goes, while the smaller ones waited their turn. Tiger sharks are fairly slow in a way. They're the king of the ocean, so they don't have to hurry. And they tend to sort of suss you out or suss the bait out as if they're a little cautious.
Camera in.
But once they've taken that first bite, they become a feeding machine. Nothing really stops them after that. That's why I would hate to be lost at sea, because you'd probably survive the first day, but when the tiger comes around, you're going to survive for an hour or two. But eventually he's going to make up his mind to go chomp, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, sometimes I find a tiger shark chasing a turtle, or killing a turtle. And this happens up north quite a lot, especially around the sand caves where the turtles are nesting, because the favourite diet of a tiger shark is turtle. It goes crazy over turtle. If I see a tiger shark chasing a live turtle, I generally put my boat in between them and help the turtle to escape. But if the shark has already grabbed that turtle and it's dead or dying, then I film it because it's nature. Occasionally, I've actually taken the dead turtle away from the tiger. We've come up, put a rope around it, hauled it into the back of the boat and gone back into the shallows and anchored, and the tiger plods along behind. He doesn't want to let the turtle go, so he plods along behind, and we just reset the turtle, just like we do with the fish carcasses, and the tiger comes in right at the back of the boat. I can get this camera in, and that shark feeding. And when it feeds on a turtle, it's horrible. Those jaws clamp on the hard carapace, the shell, and you can hear this as the teeth scrape across the shell.
Ben Crop's closest encounter with a tiger shark came when he was above water in his inflatable with two friends.
We first had to go and spear some fish for dinner because we didn't bring any food out. So we hopped in the dinghy and we saw these Torres Strait Islanders, and they were pulling a turtle in the boat. So I thought, oh, I'd just better check just in case they've got a dugong, which I'd be very annoyed about. And we came up to them, they'd hauled this turtle in, and when we set our buys and left, we immediately saw a tiger shark. This tiger shark had come in for the turtle and had missed out. And we went, oh, wow, let's follow this, I grabbed this camera and we started to follow it to try and get into position, and we got really close and the tiger turned and bumped the dinghy.
I had no idea what it was at first. I didn't know if it hit the bottom actually, and I just looked over and all I could see coming out of the water was like out of a Jaws movie. This shark just came out of the water with all its mouth wide open and just came up straight up to the boat and just latched on.
And the teeth are going through the pontoon. Pop, pop, pop. Air's hissing out. I'm thinking, geez, this is serious. Shouldn't be doing this. Grab my camera, rattle off a couple of shots. Ben's already got his camera, moving up on the shark, and he's getting some really good close-ups.
Cursing that I'd run out of tape and didn't get the shots underwater.
It sort of hung on here and there. It just wouldn't let go. And it just hung on, and then it just turned over, and all you could see was the white part of its stomach and all its teeth all exposed, and it just kept tearing and hanging on. It was just the most amazing, incredible sight I've ever seen in my life.
By about 3 minutes, I started to get worried. I thought, if this guy doesn't get his teeth out of this, he's going to flip the dinghy. And that's something we didn't want to, all of us end up in the water with a cranky shark. We all got over this side while the dinghy deflated, and we could still see the Torres Strait Islanders a couple of 100 metres away, so we yelled and yelled. And I think they saw the commotion. because they started to come over to us. And even when they got up beside us, it felt a bit of a relief, because we thought, OK, if this dinghy goes under, we're in the water and into their boat. But I guess the tiger shark kept eating the dinghy for about another minute, and then eventually got its teeth undone and swam away. And we were stuck with a totally deflated side of the dinghy. Certainly a write-off.
I'll never trust a tiger shark. I'll trust other sharks, but never a tiger shark.
Australia's spiders are a deadly lot. None more deadly than the Sydney funnel web. All these spiders behind me being lined up, ready to be milked to create an anti-venom. In Australia alone, 2,000 spider species.
One spider species that is very big is this, a tarantula, known as a bird-eating spider. So called because it is big enough to eat a bird.
This is Australia's largest spider. It's a bird-eating spider. It spends most of its life underground in a burrow up in the tropics of Queensland.
This spider here might produce up to anything from 150 to 200 spiderlings every year. This spider has fangs as large as most Australian land snakes. Real fine, narrow fangs, like a hypodermic syringe ready to inject venom. If it does bite you, there's no antivenin. 6 to 8 hour pain and nausea, vomiting. Everyone reacts differently to an envenomation. And because a lot of them haven't actually been tested, there could actually be the chance of coming across a novel toxin from one of our tarantulas, which someone could have an adverse reaction to and die. I've been bitten numerous times by these spiders. It's a really painful bite. It's kind of a shocking thing to watch a spider actually grasp into you and pull back and lever its fangs into them. It's an incredibly painful experience.
Another spider well known for its painful bites is the redback. Every year the redback bites some 2,000 Aussies, causing intense local pain and leading to 13 recorded deaths.
You just have to have a look at them and see their shiny black bodies, their delicate little legs and that big red stripe down there.
When we get bitten by these things, they can have drastic effects, and there are recorded cases of deaths. People come past and brush their hand or body up against the spider, not knowing it's there because they're so small. And that's when the fangs come in and penetrate into the skin.
They do have small fangs, quite tiny fangs, but when they do penetrate the skin, they actually give you a nasty bite, and it's quite a painful bite, and the venom is quite toxic, only second to that of the funnel web spider.
The recorded cases of these, because they're so small, they don't usually inject a whole lot of venom into everything, but mainly insects and mammals do get affected by this, so they are classed as deadly animals and they can kill humans. Everybody reacts differently to the venom. Some people react and some people don't. Well, the reaction when you get bitten by a redback spider, most people think, oh, yep, funnel web spider, spiders, get out the bandage. But with redbacks, you don't do that at all. You apply an ice pack and you get yourself to hospital as quickly as you can.
Then there's the mouse spider. They've been known to take over the lawn in suburban homes, as Leanne Osborne remembers vividly. An infestation that saw hundreds of mouse spiders cover the back lawn.
They're 10 times more potent than the Sydney funnel web, but they don't inject as much venom into you as what the funnel web does.
Oh, here's another one. Oh my God, there's a huge one here.
There.
Yeah.
Big female. We collected, altogether would have been over 1,000 spiders. On the actual night of the stakeout, we collected about 400 spiders.
Wazza Dyer from the Australian Reptile Park has been called in to eradicate them.
2001 was the last time we were up here, and you've got reports of more mouse spiders around.
Yeah, well, we've had a couple of sightings since then. I was clearing up down in the backyard, and I got up the next morning, and here's a mouse spider half squashed on the grass. The neighbours have found a couple in their pool. We've found a couple of mouse spiders underneath the house after a bit of rain. But yeah, there's one here and there's one up in the garden there behind you. I usually jam the hose down there and give it a flush out. But I knew you fellas were coming around this afternoon.
Let's check it out. We've got to make sure we catch them up.
Yep, for sure.
Let's go start digging.
Not a problem.
You've got to be really careful because These animals can flare out at any time. Got a couple of legs, this is good. Oh, there's movement too. Oh, there she is, excellent. Well, it's definitely a female, and she's big too. She's real big.
Then there's Australia's most dangerous spider, the Sydney funnel web, armed with fangs so massive they can penetrate a fingernail, and venom so deadly they can kill humans in minutes. Dan Rumsey says his reptile park extracts their venom.
So up until 1981, there'd been at least 14 recorded deaths that we know of from a male funnel web spider bite. Since 1981, there's been 0 fatalities. So we know it was a medically significant issue before the 80s, but now, not the case. It's one of Australia's and the world's most iconic species to look at. They just look like a spider in every sense of the word. Now, Sydney funnel webs are obviously only found in that greater Sydney region, but there is a few funnel web species, over 40, found throughout eastern Australia, and some are just as toxic as the Sydney funnel web spider. So if you ever see a funnel web spider, make sure you don't pick it up. Definitely don't play with it, because they have really, really large fangs. They've got powerful fangs as well, and of course, one highly toxic venom.
Where you find these is deep down in burrows, up to 1 metre deep. Now you can see how fast they are. They move like dynamite. Extremely potent venom, and one of the most venomous creatures on our planet. Their fangs are about 2 centimetres long. Straight in the skin, pump all the venom into you. Because their fangs fold right underneath their body, the way they strike down is they come up and they rip down as fast as they can. Now these fangs are capable of injecting venom up to 1 millimetre into your bone.
Just a tiny little drop is going to make you really, really sick. So much so that your cells will vibrate at a frequency to which you're totally unaccustomed, and in the end, they'll vibrate so much that your lungs won't be able to function anymore.
The quickest time from bite to death is recorded as about 15 minutes. Usually it's not quite that dramatic. Most cases of fatalities from funnel web spiders happen over a period of several hours rather than minutes. If you happen to be one of that 5 to 10% who's going to get sick, you can get very sick and very quickly. Well, it's one of the most dramatic syndromes that you'll see in medicine. I mean, you look at crocodiles and sharks and all that stuff, they don't have venom. These animals, for their size, are extremely dangerous. Lots of venom, lots of potency, and really knock any primates, so monkeys and us, knock on the ground quick smart.
How harmless, how innocuous this little octopus looks. But find an alive one in a rock pool, brown coloured like this, and if touched, if disturbed, it'll turn a bright iridescent blue. And it has a beak which it penetrates your skin, can inject deadly neurotoxins.
They're tiny, but deadly. Blue-ringed octopus, the most toxic creature in the ocean with no known antidote, equipped with a parrot-like beak that can penetrate a wetsuit.
So they're found in areas like rock pools such as this. They're also found in estuaries and the seagrass meadows. An octopus would likely, in my opinion, be, if it was to be in here, hidden under a rock such as this.
Shani Connell says they're armed with enough venom to kill 26 adults.
Yeah, if someone was bitten by a blue-ringed octopus, what would happen is the venom would take effect within about 20 minutes. It slowly shuts down all of your body's muscle system, so you basically become paralysed. It shuts down all of your muscles, so you're unable to breathe. The danger is very real, particularly for children at the beach who really like to explore and collect shells. One of the things that we say to people is be very careful when collecting shells, because often a blue-ringed octopus might be living inside the shell.
This little guy, the blue-ringed octopus, ambush things like crabs, little crustaceans, shrimps, and the way they do that is they, as you can see, they're quite cryptic. He's the same colour as that sandstone. The way these guys bite, they grab hold of, say, the crab or the end of your finger, and they wrap their tentacles around it, and they have to manoeuvre the item right up to the centre of the 8 legs, where they've got a tiny beak, just like a parrot's beak, and they give you a quick little nip with that and inject a toxin. This acts immediately on the animal's central nervous system, and it basically dies instantly. Will kill you if it bites you and it's not treated. When they're defensive, you can tell because they have intense neon blue rings that come up.
It's a very potent poison from the blue-ringed octopus. It's a poison that paralyses our voluntary muscles. So our muscles that we need to breathe are paralysed, and therefore the patient dies of suffocation.
If someone gets bitten by this, very quickly their heart and lungs start to slow down and they just get really tired and drop off to sleep and never wake up.
We know there are 2 reported fatalities from blue-ringed octopus. There's been numerous case reports of severe injuries and people who have been successfully resuscitated and have survived potentially fatal bites from the blue-ringed octopus.
It'd be quite hard to get bitten by one, but if you did, you wouldn't even know it.
Kangaroos, well, they look so adorable. You want to reach out and pat them, but take care. Look at this. Look at these claws extended, ready to lash out in an instant. Their hind legs, they'll lash out with those as well. They'll back up on their tail and lash out with an unprovoked attack. They've been known to kill dogs and harm humans.
Cute and ever so adorable. How could a lovable joey like this ever grow into an adult capable of inflicting injuries on other animals and even humans? Even when fully grown, roos can remain quite tame. Just watch this fella enter a beachside apartment. But other roos can become quite aggressive. This father was protecting his kids when a roo attacked without warning. One roo attack inflicted even worse injuries. Stephen Shorten was on the Grafton golf course when he encountered an angry roo.
I was attacked by a kangaroo when I was 13 on a golf course. Me and one of my friends and his younger brother were playing golf and he lost his ball in the rough. And while we were looking, there's mob kangaroos all around. It was pretty regular there, so we didn't care. And then one stood up about 30 metres away and started growling really huskily at us. Like a dog, but a lot more husky. So we just turned and ran away. And after running for about 30, 40 metres, it grabbed me from behind. I turned around and hit him with the golf club, and that didn't even bother it. He went up on his tail and balanced on his tail and kicked me in the chest with his hind legs, and that's what knocked me to the ground. It was like being hit with a bat. It was very strong. Once I was on the ground, he was scratching me with his front legs, and he actually bit me as well, which people don't realise they bite. There wasn't a part of my body that wasn't scratched up. All I tried to do was cover my face and, try and kick him off, but as hard as I could kick, it wasn't moving him. After a couple of minutes, a guy from another hole came running over and yelled at it, and that scared it off. And it ran away about 20, 30 metres, and I just laid there. And when I looked down after it left and seen all the blood just covering me, and there was pools of blood on the ground, and I started screaming, and it come back and attacked me again. And for about another 30 seconds until the guy could get over there and started hitting it with a golf club. And he had to hit it 3 times. And then it finally ran off. Oh, I think it attacked me because I was between the male and the female. Probably just got threatened about his females being taken away. When I was 13, I was very skinny. I probably weighed less than most 13-year-olds, so I was very small. And to have a kangaroo that big just start attacking me, I had no chance. They said if I stood taller than him, he probably wouldn't have attacked me. I had a broken tear duct and a broken cheekbone there, and stitches on my face and steri strips all over my body. And there wasn't a part of my body that didn't have deep wounds to it. I had superficial cuts over my eyelids, and I was very lucky not to lose my eyes. Then they realised I had broken cheekbone, and I was in hospital for about 2 weeks after that. I had to have a couple of operations after that to replace the tear duct that had been ruptured. And I was in hospital for about 2 weeks every time, about 4 times, I think. On my foot. He was put down by the wildlife place. Yeah. At Grafton Golf Course, there's been quite a few happen before that. There's been a few since then. But there's a lot more than people think. This is mine. Huh?
At the Australian Reptile Park, catching a kangaroo to check its pouch for babies is quite hazardous.
I'm going to bring her up into the middle. I'll pin her down, so we'll have a head up here, tail down the back. One knee up on the head, one knee on the tail, and I'll restrain her. You might have to hold one leg, not in front of the legs there, so do a simple pouch check from that. Hopefully it'll all go well. So just by the base of the tail is the strongest part. We'll get her over here. So you can just guide them like that. Now, we need to get both of the back legs out and down. Come on, little girl. That's it. And if you just twist her on the top, that's the way. I'll get on the leg, lay down so she's right there. And if you want to take the top leg, I'll keep the bottom. She's given a bit of a good fight now, But, I mean, a wild roo, number one, you wouldn't get near it to start with, and number two, they would fight. They just, I mean, she should settle in a second, and a wild roo just wouldn't stop. All right, can you get your hand in there and have a bit of a look? The reason we do the pouch checks just to know if we need to introduce males back in on the females. We keep them separated, so once every 6 months we'll check the does to see if they do have pouch young, and that way we know whether to put a male. Doesn't look like she's got anything. All right, well, you want to jump back? I'll get her up. And that's it, getting them up's just pretty easy. Good girl. In most cases, the roos that are most aggressive are your 2-year-old bucks. Until they're about 2 to 3 years old, they stay around mum. They actually kick mum to start with, and you'll see them kicking up against the rump and on her belly. And at that age, that's like a 12-year-old human. They're starting to figure out things and get a bit restless. So what we're going to try and do is just run this roo down the fence, and as we go past, hopefully Jace will grab onto it. So it's good just to get him in a bit of a run. That's the way. And while Jace has got him, I'll just hold him up. And we just shepherd him to the direction that we want. Now, some roos in this situation actually turn back up and try and bite and scratch. All right, you got him for 1 sec. Come on. Now these, in a wild situation, you wouldn't get near the roo, and also, these guys often will try and turn back around and claw and bite like they are. So that's why I'm here, just on the side, just to keep him going the direction that we want him to. You can see the power there, like Jace is a big bloke, and that's really throwing him about, so we'll let him out anyway. And go out for the night.
The fascinating thing about jellyfish is that they have no brains, no eyes, no heart, no bones. But what they do have are stinging tentacles. Tentacles that in most cases are quite painful, and in the case of the irukandji, deadly.
The irukandji is tiny, but armed with highly venomous stingers that shoot into their victims.
Yeah, the irukandji and a lot of those jellyfish in that family have very, very potent venoms. And the advantage for people with a lot of jellyfish stings is that our skin is thick enough that the barbs that contain the venom don't actually penetrate our skin. Whereas things like box jellyfish and irukandji, their venom is much more toxic than a lot of other jellies, but also the mechanism by which they inject that into our skin is more advanced and a bit stronger, and so they're getting that highly toxic venom into our bodies quite effectively. And especially with the irukandji, they're so small, often just a cursory glance into the water where you're swimming might be enough to pick up a big jelly blubber or even a box jellyfish, but irukandji, being these tiny little critters, they're not often visible or not often obvious to the naked eye.
The patient brushes up against one of these things, gets a cursory sting. Only a minute amount of venom is injected because the animal is so small, but that's enough to cause very serious problems in the patient.
Surfer Mark Long has barely survived the sting of an irukandji.
Been out in the water for about 15 minutes, enjoying a well-earned surf, when all of a sudden a jellyfish went up the back of my board shorts and stung me on the right thigh. About 10 minutes after the sting, I started getting really tight in the chest, so I paddled back into the beach with difficulty to breathe. And that was about when I realised that, gee, something's going on here. Had excruciating pain through my lower back and my neck, and found it hard to walk, doubling up with pain. Felt like the chest was just caving in. I got to the top of the stairs, I was screaming in agony. I was gasping for breath, so he drove me to the hospital, which was about a 15-minute drive. And the whole time I was in the car driving to the hospital, I was envisaging lying in the back of the car, suffocating, not breathing and nobody knowing. The Royal Flying Doctor flew me to Perth, admitted to Sir Charles Gardner Hospital into the intensive care, still on life support, and I was unconscious for 2 to 3 days.
Another highly deadly cousin of the irukandji is the box jellyfish.
The box jellyfish are found in northeastern and northern Australia, from about Rockhampton north and over to the other side. Box jellyfish are found in inshore waters. You won't find them way far out on the reef.
This is a highly intelligent animal. Now it's got 4 eyes, so it can see all around.
On each corner of the box jellyfish's bell, they have a bundle of tentacles, maybe up to 15 tentacles in each bundle.
Underwater, you'll see them sort of splayed out about 1 metre long.
They estimate that it's about 5,000 stinging cells per tentacle. The stinging cells on the box jellyfish's tentacles are designed to basically shoot a harpoon-like trigger into its prey. Once this happens, the venom is released and this automatically or immediately stuns something like a fish. In the case of a human, it might take a bit more, maybe an entire tentacle wrapped around you. One of the big dangers with box jellyfish is that where there's one, there's many. So if you are swimming in an area with box jellyfish, you're very likely to be stung by multiple box jellies. The venom of the box jellyfish can stop a human's heart within 3 minutes. If you don't get treatment, you will die. It's pretty safe to say. In the last 120 years, there have been about 70 deaths attributed to the box jellyfish here in Australia. The box jellyfish has killed more people than sharks, snakes, and crocodiles combined.
Australia has some 1,700 different species of bees. Now, they are very important pollinators of Australia's unique wildlife, but their stings, in many cases, can be fatal. There's almost as many fatal bee stings as there are from snakes.
It's imported honeybees that cause most anaphylactic reactions in people they sting.
About 1 in 250 people in the population is thought to be prone to dangerous allergic reactions, but most people don't know about it because they don't get bitten very often. And everybody, if they're stung, is going to get a bit of pain and swelling. In people with serious allergies, however, the problem is not so much the poisonous venom, the problem really is the body's immune response to it. When dramatic allergic reactions occur, it is very frightening for everybody involved. It's a frightening reaction where they, unless there's some way of switching off the allergy, they live with the fear of it happening again, but the event itself is unpredictable. So an estimated 2 to 3 people per year will die in Australia of insect-related stings. The only thing that works quickly is to inject adrenaline.
One victim saved by an injection was Noel Quanchi.
Most incredible itching that you would ever experience, and it wasn't just in one part of your body, it was your whole body. Within 10 minutes, my skin temperature was like boiling. I don't trust them one little bit, and I'm aware that this little creature can kill me.
Mosquitoes, they're nature's biggest killer. More than 400,000 fatalities around the world every single year. Here in Australia, mosquitoes are responsible for diseases such as Ross River fever and dengue fever.
Of all Australia's big killers, it's this tiny insect that causes more death and sickness than all the other creatures combined. Mosquitoes can look harmless, but can carry 4 major diseases that hospitalise thousands of Aussies every year. Their long proboscis pierces human skin to suck blood.
In terms of those creatures that bite or sting, certainly mosquitoes are by far the #1 most dangerous because they just transmit so much disease. In Australia, the main diseases of concern include Ross River, Barmah Forest, there's also dengue, and we see a lot of cases of malaria which are brought in from overseas. In terms of the viruses that can actually kill us, there's 3 types in Australia: Murray Valley encephalitis, Japanese encephalitis, and dengue. Across the world, we're seeing more cases of dengue, we're seeing more malaria. So it appears that there is a global increase in mosquito-borne diseases. By far the most common arbovirus in Australia is Ross River virus, and we can see massive epidemics involving many thousands of cases.
Mark Lyons contracted Ross River fever.
At the time when I was diagnosed with Ross River fever, the doctors told me I'd be right in a couple of weeks, but unfortunately that couple of weeks extended into 8 years. And in those 8 years I was in bed for 4 to 5 years, unable to move, unable to do just about anything. Over those 8 years my whole body felt as though it was being poisoned. I had very severe muscle pains, very severe joint pains, and that overall feeling of complete lethargy. I had very bad cognitive problems I basically had brain damage. Now I have kids of my own. I spend all my time trying to make sure they're covered up. I'm more scared of mosquitoes than I'll ever be of a snake.
Mosquitoes are a major menace. When we even look at the last 5 years, we're talking about 20,000 cases of disease. It's just hard to believe that such a small creature can cause so much discomfort, spread so much disease, and be responsible for so much death.